The Great Hall of the Galactic Research Council thrummed with tension. 200 of the most accomplished minds in known space had gathered for what promised to be a turning point in our shared history. I, Zictal, senior xenobiologist of the Seventh Arm, stood at the central podium, my clawed digits resting on the stack of data crystals that held a century of research. Even through my scales, I felt the chamber's chill. The hall was a masterpiece of engineering. A dome spanning nearly a kilometer, its arched walls shaped to carry even the softest voice to the farthest seat. Representatives from 97 spacefaring civilizations filled the ascending rings, their forms as varied as the worlds that birthed them, luminous vapor beings from Nebula Prime, basalt-skinned architects from the Outer Rim, chitinous diplomats from worlds of endless dusk. For all their differences, these species had one thing in common. They had evolved in safe, gentle niches of the galaxy. Today, however, we were not here to discuss them. Today was about those who had emerged from places that nature itself seemed determined to kill. The Deathworlders. First speaker Lumine floated forward in her gravity sphere, tendrils glowing with expectation. Honored delegates, we convened to hear Chief Zictal's latest findings on Apex survivors, and, in particular, a new development concerning the Drachnid civilization. I inclined my head. Thank you, first speaker. For 50 cycles, my team had catalogued every species known to originate from worlds where life clung to existence by sheer stubbornness. Of these, none were more renowned or feared than the Drachnids. With a gesture, I called up a hologram of their world. Drar. A nightmare wrapped in an atmosphere. Gravity more than triple galactic standard. Acidic storms capable of dissolving standard starship hulls in minutes. A temperature range that swung from deep frozen to blistering within a single day. Then, the Drachnid themselves appeared above the dais. Towering, armored, redundant organ predators with weapons built into their very anatomy. Against every projection, they had mastered technology, endured millennia of war against their own planet, and taken their place among the stars. For 3,000 cycles, they had been the measure by which we judged survival. I paused. They were, until now. A murmur rippled across the chamber. The image shifted to a blue-green sphere. This, I said, is Earth, and the creatures who claim it. The murmuring stopped. Even the quantum mind delegates, who normally processed 1,000 thoughts at once, stilled their flickering lights. They call themselves humans. And if the Drachnids are survivors, these beings are something else entirely. The first confirmed contact came by accident. Our research vessel, Starseeker, was conducting atmospheric studies on a radiation-blasted gas giant in the disputed reaches of the Spiral Arm. Such sectors were rarely visited by anyone but Drachnid scouts. The hazards were too great for lesser species. Our sensors detected a ship approaching at close to system entry speed. At first we assumed it was Drachnid, but as it drew closer, its crude construction became clear. The radiation shielding was laughably thin, barely suitable for deep space, let alone this lethal region. Before we could puzzle out how such a vessel had arrived intact, it hailed us. The view screen resolved into the image of a soft-skinned biped in a simple fabric uniform. This is Captain Alexander Reeves of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon's Dream. We come in peace, seeking friendly contact. On our bridge, an uncomfortable silence fell. No armor, no redundant organ shielding, no visible environmental defenses. Just exposed flesh and an air of casual confidence. Our captain responded first. Captain Reeves, our readings indicate you are in extreme danger. Radiation levels here exceed safe exposure for organic life by orders of magnitude. We can assist with evacuation. The human only smiled. A peculiar facial contortion we later learned indicated amusement. Appreciate the concern, but we're fine. These levels are within human tolerance. We've got the basics covered. Protocol demanded we warn them again, but before we could, they began docking procedures uninvited. In a scramble, our crew sealed bulkheads and activated emergency shielding to protect these apparently reckless beings. I raced to the docking bay with a portable field generator, determined to keep at least one specimen alive for study. The airlock cycled and the humans stepped through. No sealed suits. No breathing apparatus. just their uniforms and an easy stride, as though stepping into a garden rather than a death trap. One, who introduced herself as Dr. Samira Patel, immediately began scanning the air with a handheld device. "Fascinating atmosphere," she remarked. "A little on the light side for our gravity preference, though. My instruments insisted they should already be dead. They were not. In fact, they looked healthier than most species in perfect laboratory conditions." When I demanded an explanation, Captain Reeves simply said, "We evolved on a planet that never stopped trying to kill us. Radiation like this? It's just another Tuesday." Dr. Patel added with academic cheer, "We've got cell repair mechanisms and genetic quirks that handle damage pretty well. I'd love to trade research notes if you're open to it." In that moment, I understood our definitions of survivable had been built too narrowly. Humans didn't just endure environments we called lethal. They navigated them with curiosity, humor, and almost insulting ease. The galaxy had a new kind of death-worlder, and they were smiling. We had severely misjudged what truly defined a death world, and the kinds of life capable of surviving one. At the time, I had no idea this was only the first revelation about human resilience that awaited us. Following our initial encounter, the Galactic Council arranged a formal diplomatic meeting aboard Space Station Zenith. The station had been chosen for its advanced environmental systems, capable of sustaining multiple species at once, each within its own specially calibrated atmospheric chamber. It was meant to ensure comfort and safety for all, or so we believed. The human delegation arrived 2 full solar cycles ahead of schedule, led by Captain Reeves with Dr. Patel and 3 other crew members in tow. Our station safety officer, Ralnick, nearly suffered a neural collapse when they disembarked, wearing what he could only describe as decorative fabric coverings. "Honored humans," he stammered through the speaker of his sealed environmental suit. "We have prepared a special, secure chamber for your protection. Please allow me to escort you there immediately." Captain Reeves offered that disarming human smile. "Thank you, but we're comfortable breathing the station's standard atmosphere. According to our scans, it's not too different from Earth's, just a bit thin." Ralnick's tail coiled in alarm. "But the pressure levels here are calibrated for maintenance drones. The oxygen content alone would be lethal to most carbon-based life forms." Dr. Patel calmly consulted her ever-present tablet. "Actually, these oxygen levels match what we experience at high altitudes on Earth. Some of our cities are built in even thinner air, though. I'd love to study how your species manages oxygen transport, if you're willing to share the data." Before Ralnick could spiral further, First Speaker Lummin arrived in her shimmering gravity bubble, accompanied by representatives from a dozen major spacefaring civilizations. Supreme Commander Vexer of the Drachnid Empire brought up the rear, his armored bulk nearly scraping the reinforced corridor walls. "Welcome, honored humans." Lummin's translated voice rang out. "We have prepared accommodations tailored to your unique biological requirements." She gestured toward a sealed chamber fitted with every safety measure our engineers could devise: thick radiation shielding, atmospheric scrubbers, pressure regulators, and emergency stasis fields. Captain Reeves examined the setup with diplomatic courtesy. "We appreciate the gesture, but perhaps we could meet in the main conference hall instead? It would make conversation easier." The assembled diplomats traded uneasy glances. Vexer's plates clinked in disapproval. "The main hall is open to standard station conditions. Even we Drachnids require protective gear there." "It'll be fine," Lieutenant James Parker interjected. "We checked the specs. Nothing we haven't dealt with before." A long debate over safety protocols followed, during which the humans calmly explained biological tolerances that defied every standard model we knew. Eventually, for lack of a diplomatic way to refuse, we allowed the meeting to proceed in the main hall. First, everything went smoothly. Captain Reeves shared data on Earth's extreme environments, leaving several xenobiologists in need of calming supplements. Dr. Patel discussed potential research collaborations, carefully avoiding any comment on how many of our critical safety measures were irrelevant for humans. Then disaster struck. A maintenance drone malfunctioned, colliding with a primary atmospheric regulator. Sirens blared as the room's air began venting into space. Emergency force fields engaged, but not before the pressure plummeted to near vacuum levels. Species across the chamber activated survival systems. Mist walkers condensed into their emergency forms. Lummin's gravity bubble expanded into a protective sphere. But 3 junior diplomats, caught without protection, collapsed in the thinning air. The humans moved before anyone could process what was happening. Captain Reeves and Lieutenant Parker sprinted across the depressurized hall, scooping the incapacitated diplomats into their arms and carrying them to the nearest emergency shelter. Meanwhile, Dr. Patel and the other human crew members set about sealing the hull breach, working with raw urgency, brute force, and nothing but emergency repair kits. They coordinated through the whisper-thin air as though it were nothing more than a minor inconvenience, patching damage that would normally require a full repair team in pressurized suits. Supreme Commander Vexer stood frozen, his many eyes unblinking, as these supposedly fragile beings accomplished the impossible in minutes. When the emergency crews finally arrived, they found the humans already administering first aid, utterly unconcerned that they had just endured conditions that should have been instantly fatal. "Is everyone all right?" Captain Reeves asked, helping a disoriented quantum thinker to its feet. "Let's get medical to check for decompression effects." Lummin's gravity bubble contracted in something like stunned disbelief. "You saved them. Without protective equipment. In vacuum." "Not complete vacuum," Dr. Patel corrected mildly, still jotting notes on her tablet. "There was about 0.1 psi remaining. Humans can handle brief exposure to near vacuum, though I wouldn't recommend it long-term." Lieutenant Parker grinned. "Brief is relative. Current record's about 3 minutes, though we try not to test that." The meeting was suspended for investigation, but the true diplomatic breakthrough had already happened. As the humans casually assisted with repairs, discussing emergency protocols as if nothing unusual had occurred, I realized our fundamental error. We had thought they needed protecting. Later, Supreme Commander Vexer approached me, his usual imposing demeanor tempered. "When you first claimed humans evolved on a world harsher than Drar, I thought you exaggerated. I now suspect you understated it." Watching Captain Reeves coordinate with our safety officer, and Dr. Patel explaining human decompression tolerance to an eager circle of xenobiologists, I had to agree. We had not simply underestimated humanity. We had failed to understand them at all. In all recorded galactic history, nothing like this had ever occurred. A newly contacted species not only surviving in hostile conditions, but thriving in environments that even our maintenance drones struggled to endure. Following the recent space station incident, the Galactic Research Council authorized a comprehensive and unprecedented study of Earth and its native inhabitants, humans. As the chief xenobiologist, I was assigned to lead the investigation, working closely with Dr. Patel, who, much to my irritation, seemed to find our astonishment endlessly amusing. Our first shock came from something as simple as atmospheric composition. Earth's air contains a startlingly high concentration of a corrosive element known as oxygen, far above levels considered survivable for any known sentient species. When I voiced my concern, Dr. Patel merely smiled and explained, "We actually need oxygen to live." The room went silent. "You breathe a corrosive gas as a requirement for survival?" I asked. She nodded, then added almost casually, "Our ancient ancestors lived in an atmosphere with even higher oxygen levels than today. That would be toxic to us now, but back then, it was normal." But this was only the beginning. When we measured Earth's surface gravity, our instruments flagged the readings as errors. We recalibrated and remeasured 3 times. Only then did we accept the truth. Humans evolved under gravity nearly 3 times stronger than the galactic standard. Yet here, in our comparatively gentle environments, they moved with casual ease. "That explains why everything feels so light out here," remarked Lieutenant Parker, as he effortlessly lifted a cargo crate that would require mechanized assistance for most species. The more we studied, the more Earth revealed itself as a nightmare world. Regular electromagnetic storms capable of crippling advanced technology. Vast geological instability producing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Violent seasonal shifts in temperature so extreme that our climate models initially rejected the data outright. And then came the revelation that chilled the council chamber, Earth's ecosystem. On most inhabited worlds, life forms develop in a delicately balanced web of cooperation. On Earth, it is a battlefield. Every human grows up surrounded by countless threats, from invisible pathogens to towering predators. Supreme Commander Vexer interrupted my report. You mean to tell us that your species evolved under constant attack from other life forms? Not merely attack, I replied. According to their history, humans systematically hunted creatures many times their own size to extinction. They perfected a method called persistence hunting, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. The chamber erupted in alarmed murmurs. The humans had seemed so approachable, so friendly, yet they were apex predators, shaped by a world that rewarded endurance, ingenuity, and relentless pursuit. When I was asked if such brutal conditions had slowed their technological progress, I brought up a timeline of human innovation. The opposite was true. Every environmental challenge had driven them to invent solutions. They adapted with startling speed, their technology advancing at an exponential rate, faster than any civilization we have on record. A voice from the upper tiers asked, "But surely they have vulnerabilities? Environmental limits?" I displayed our next set of findings. Humans can survive in climates ranging from Arctic ice fields to scorching deserts. They can go days without water, weeks without food. Their bodies repair radiation damage, recover from severe injuries, and adapt to conditions that would kill most species outright. Even their leisure activities resemble survival trials on other worlds. Climbing sheer cliffs without safety gear, swimming in freezing oceans, running immense distances for sport. Finally, I revealed the conclusion my team had reached. Earth's conditions are so dangerous, so varied, that space itself is less challenging for humans than their home planet. What we consider extreme survival, they view as a minor inconvenience. When I finished, the council chamber fell silent. Every delegate understood the truth. Humans are not just another new species. They are the galaxy's most dangerous survivors. They weren't just another spacefaring species. They were something new, something evolved in conditions we once thought impossible for intelligent life. Until now, Captain Reeves and her crew had shown us only a fraction of human capability. They had been careful with us, gentle even, and that was perhaps the most unsettling revelation of all. How much were they holding back, just to make the rest of the galaxy comfortable? The Drachnid gamble. The attack came without warning. Supreme Commander Vexer, unsettled by recent revelations about humanity's potential, decided to eliminate them before they could fully establish themselves in the galaxy. I was in the council chamber when the alert came in. The Drachnids had committed their entire Third Fleet, nearly 400 warships, against a colony of barely 50,000 humans on New Terra. Panic rippled through the assembly. First speaker Lu Min's voice trembled with urgency. "We must send aid immediately. The humans have no defensive fleet in that sector." All eyes turned to Captain Reeves, Earth's temporary representative. Most expected a desperate plea for help. Instead, she smiled. "We appreciate the concern," she said calmly, "but the situation is under control. Our colonial defense forces were alerted the moment the Drachnid fleet began moving." "No defenses?" A Drachnid officer scoffed. "Our scans show no orbital defenses, no planetary shields, nothing." Dr. Patel didn't even look up from her datapad. "Oh, those scans? Did you account for the fact that we use your lethal radiation bands for communications?" Before anyone could answer, live footage from New Terra filled the chamber. The trap is sprung. The Drachnid fleet descended in perfect invasion formation. But the colony was not defenseless. Mining rigs were, in fact, disguised weapons platforms. Civilian shelters doubled as hardened bunkers. Every unarmed colonist moved with trained precision to assigned battle stations. When the Drachnids dropped shock troops into the central plaza, the ground collapsed beneath them, undermined weeks earlier. When they attempted to breach in heavy armor, humans increased atmospheric pressure until the enemy's suits began to buckle. "Impossible!" a Drachnid officer stammered. They're miners and farmers. Reeves answered with a polite smile. On Earth, most of our military forces are reservists. Every colony includes veterans. The miners? Former combat engineers. The farmers? Special forces. That grandmother at the comms hub? 30 years as a tactical analyst. Fighting like no one else can. The footage showed colonists in environmental suits dismantling Drachnid heavy armor with shocking speed, using the high gravity and lethal environment as cover. One council aide asked in disbelief, "Are they singing?" Lieutenant Parker nodded. Old combat tradition. Keeps morale high. That one's called When Johnny Comes Marching Home. The adaptation paradox. The Supreme Commander finally understood the magnitude of his error. The humans had not merely repelled his assault, they had done it while holding back, deliberately avoiding unnecessary casualties. How? He demanded. His voice edged with disbelief. How did simple colonists defeat our most elite forces? Lieutenant Parker chuckled. Simple? Have you ever seen what it takes to build a colony from scratch? You terraform hostile worlds, create self-sustaining infrastructure, and survive everything a new planet can throw at you. Compared to that, fending off an invasion is the easy part. I turned to the council, adding, the remarkable thing about humans isn't that they can fight. It's that they can adapt to anything, turning disadvantages into advantages. They didn't just survive their so-called death world. They learned to thrive in conditions that should have been impossible. Captain Reeves nodded. We didn't get here by being the strongest or the most aggressive. We got here by being the most adaptable. Every problem is just a puzzle waiting to be solved. Dr. Patel glanced up from her tablet. On that note, we've compiled fascinating data on Drachnid combat tactics and how their physiology responds to environmental stress. Would anyone like to co-author a research paper? One cycle later, one standard cycle after the failed invasion of New Terra, I stood once again in the Galactic Council chamber, delivering my final report on humanity's integration into galactic society. The chamber itself had changed, redesigned with structural improvements suggested by human engineers to withstand a wider range of environmental hazards. First speaker Lu Min floated in her gravity bubble, now equipped with multiple redundant safety features. Also human innovations. Chief Xenobiologist Zektal, Lu Min said, please share your conclusions about the recent paradigm shift in our understanding of survival. I rose, noting the presence of human and Drachnid representatives seated together in what had been nicknamed the Deathworlder section. Honored colleagues, I began. The events at New Terra have forced us to redefine resilience and adaptability. The display behind me flickered to life, showing footage from the new Galactic Defense Academy. Human instructors leading mixed-species survival drills. One clip showed Captain Reeves assembling a makeshift water filtration system from scrap, while in vacuum. As you see, I continued, humans have shared not only their defensive skills, but also their problem-solving mindset. Their true strength lies not in their biology, but in their mental flexibility. The scene shifted to Dr. Patel, collaborating with Drachnid scientists on a new generation of environmental suits. Supreme Commander Vexen AR, now an advocate for human Drachnid cooperation, nodded in approval. They taught us, I said, that survival is not about being the strongest but about helping others survive. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity for growth. A training clip played, Lieutenant Parker demonstrating a form of human movement called parkour to species of varying gravity environments, while alien mathematicians floated nearby, calculating trajectory paths. And the Drachnid situation? Lu Min asked delicately. Footage rolled of human and Drachnid engineers designing colonial habitats together. What began as a near war has become one of the most productive technological partnerships in galactic history, I said. They evolved in conditions similar to ours, Captain Reeves added from her seat. They even understand our jokes about radiation. Vexenar gave a sound that translated roughly as laughter. We thought we were the galaxy's ultimate survivors, until we met humans. The display switched to a safety drill in progress. A mist walker, tangled in its environmental suit, quoted a human mantra. If you stay calm, you have time. If you have time, you can solve it. That, I said, is perhaps their greatest gift, reframing survival as a matter of mindset, not raw endurance. Dr. Patel raised her hand, for once without her tablet. Speaking of solving problems, we're ready to test the new multi-species suit. Any volunteers? Hands, claws, tentacles, and pseudopods shot up from species who once swore they'd never leave their homeworlds. I concluded, the humans propose an extreme environment research center to develop survival methods for all species. Lu Min arched a brow. And where do they plan to build it? Reeves grinned. We figured we'd start somewhere simple, that volcanic moon in the Centaur system. You know, the one everyone calls uninhabitable. The chamber erupted in animated discussion. My first report had described humans as deathworlders. Now I saw the truth. They were not simply survivors of harsh conditions. They were teachers, innovators, and catalysts for change. In the background, Parker was explaining to a group of xenobiologists why humans walk barefoot across burning coals for fun. Some things about humans, I decided, would always remain gloriously mysterious. The Galactic Council thought they understood survival until the humans arrived. Captain Reeves and her crew had already demonstrated abilities no species could fathom. Thriving in near vacuum, navigating deadly atmospheres, and surviving conditions that would instantly kill others. Then came New Terra. Supreme Commander Vexer, intimidated by humanity's potential, unleashed nearly 400 warships on a colony of 50,000 humans. The Council panicked. Send aid immediately, first speaker Lu Min demanded. But Captain Reeves smiled. It's under control. Our colonial defense forces were alerted the moment your fleet moved. The Drachnid scouts, confident in their superior firepower, were stunned. Miners became sharpshooters. Farmers turned into elite combat engineers. Even their geothermal plants and atmospheric processors doubled as weapons. The humans used their environment, deadly radiation zones, extreme gravity, and treacherous terrain, as cover, systematically dismantling the invading fleet. How did they do it? Vexer sputtered. Lieutenant Parker grinned. Ever tried building a colony from scratch? Terraforming, infrastructure, survival. Compared to that, defending is easy. By the end of the battle, the Drachnid fleet lay in ruins. Their ground forces surrendered, and the humans were already organizing rescue and reconstruction. And they had deliberately limited casualties. Back in the council chamber, I presented the evidence. Humans weren't the strongest, not the fastest, not the most aggressive, but they were the most adaptable. Arctic ice, blazing deserts, high radiation zones, extreme gravity, nothing could stop them. Even their leisure activities were survival training, marathons, rock climbing, swimming in freezing waters. And in space, I said, showing footage of humans improvising life support and engineering solutions in vacuum. Earth's harshest conditions are easier than what they face every day. Captain Reeves nodded. Every problem is just a puzzle waiting to be solved. Dr. Patel added, their real strength is teaching others to adapt. They've already turned former enemies into collaborators, merging technology and tactics to survive and thrive. The Council finally understood. Humans weren't just survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and catalysts for the galaxy. Lieutenant Parker, in the background, explained barefoot firewalking to a group of astonished xenobiologists. Some things about humans, I realized, would always remain wonderfully mysterious.